He survived 9 bullets and walked into the studio the next year. He turned a near-death assault into rap's biggest comeback. 50 Cent wasn't just another rapper. He was the man who made survival his brand, made fear his weapon, and made the industry realize this guy is dangerous. Behind the hits and headlines lies a story of street hustles, ruthless business, and battles that few knew he fought. This is his full story. Before the bulletproof vests, before In Da Club, before he became one of hip-hop's most feared moguls, there was just Curtis Jackson, a kid from South Jamaica, Queens, trying to survive. Born on July 6, 1975, he was raised by a teenage mother, Sabrina Jackson, who sold drugs to keep them afloat. She was smart, resourceful, and fearless, the same traits that would later define her son. But when she was murdered when Curtis was only 8, his world changed forever. Left in his grandmother's crowded house with 8 other kids, Curtis grew up surrounded by poverty, chaos, and the unspoken rule of the streets: be ruthless or be forgotten. By 12, he was selling crack on the corners his mother once ruled. By 15, he was carrying guns to school. The streets of Queens weren't about dreams, they were about survival. But Curtis was different. Even in that world, people noticed his intelligence, the way he calculated risks, counted every dollar, and never wasted a move. He watched hustlers like they were business mentors. "They taught me more than school ever could," he once said. But that education came with danger. Arrests followed, once for dealing, another for carrying narcotics in his shoes. The police knew his name before the music industry did. Still, somewhere in the noise of the streets, he found rhythm. He started writing rhymes, not for fame, but for therapy. Words were cheaper than bullets, and safer than revenge. In those notebooks, Curtis Jackson started to fade, and 50 Cent was born, a name stolen from a Brooklyn stick-up kid known for taking from the rich. For Curtis, it was symbolic, a way to take back power. He wasn't just changing his name, he was changing his destiny. By the mid-1990s, New York hip-hop was ruled by giants: Nas, Biggie, Jay-Z. 50 Cent was a nobody with a hustler's hunger, but that hunger was different. He didn't just want a hit record, he wanted to own his story. In 1996, he met Jam Master Jay of Run DMC, who taught him structure, bars, and patience. Under Jay's guidance, 50 learned the science of songmaking: hooks, rhythm, presence. But patience wasn't his strength. He wanted to explode. By 1999, Columbia Records signed him, sensing danger and potential. He recorded Power of the Dollar, his debut album, a gritty diary of betrayal and ambition. The standout track, How to Rob, flipped the industry upside down. In it, he jokingly listed all the rappers he'd rob, from Jay-Z to DMX, naming names that no newcomer dared say. It was part satire, part threat. The industry laughed, but the streets didn't. Suddenly, 50 was a topic at every label, every barbershop, every corner. Then came Ghetto Quran, a track so vivid it read like a confession, describing real names, real dealers, real crimes. To law enforcement, it was evidence. To the streets, it was betrayal. The track was rumored to expose drug kingpins still active in Queens. Some said that song sealed his fate. But in the studio, 50 Cent felt unstoppable. "I didn't care who I offended," he said later. "If I was gonna die, I wanted to tell my truth first." He didn't know it yet, but that truth would almost cost him his life. May 24th, 2000, South Jamaica. It was a bright afternoon when 50 Cent walked out of his grandmother's home and slid into the back seat of a car. A second later, another car pulled up beside him. The window dropped, a gun flashed. 9 bullets tore through his body, his hand, arm, chest, legs, hip, and even his face. One lodged in his jaw, shattering his tongue and teeth. The shooter, never officially identified, left him for dead. But he didn't die. Against every medical prediction, he survived. In the hospital, wired shut and unable to speak, he began training his voice again, mumbling syllables until sound returned. The bullet in his tongue gave his voice a permanent slur, the same one that would later make him instantly recognizable on every record. He wore the scars like armor. The attack changed everything. Columbia dropped him, terrified of the violence following him. He was blacklisted across the industry. Radio stations wouldn't play him, labels refused meetings. In an era when image ruled, 50 was considered too real to sell. So he did what he always did. He flipped the system. Still healing, he recorded more than 30 mixtapes on the streets of Queens. Songs like 50 Bars and Guess Who's Back were raw, unfiltered, and fearless. His near death gave him something no marketing could buy: invincibility. He once said, "If I survived 9 shots, what can you do to me?" That question wasn't arrogance, it was prophecy, because from that moment on, every move he made carried the weight of a man who'd already beaten death. By 2002, Curtis Jackson was radioactive. Labels avoided him. DJs refused to play his music. Every rumor around him, the bullets, the street ties, the blacklisting, made him a risk. But one person wasn't afraid. That person was Eminem. When M heard 50's mixtape, Guess Who's Back, he called Dr. Dre and said, "We need this guy." Within weeks, 50 was flown to Los Angeles. The meeting was legendary. Dre, M, and 50 in one room, 3 men who understood what it meant to be underestimated. Dre didn't need convincing. "He's hungry," he said. "Let's feed him." The result was Get Rich or Die Tryin. Released in February 2003, it became one of the fastest-selling rap debuts in history. The opening track, What Up Gangsta, sounded like a declaration of war. Then came In Da Club, a single that changed radio forever. Menacing, celebratory, unforgettable. 50 Cent wasn't just rapping, he was announcing his survival. For the industry, he was both a success story and a warning. His alliance with Eminem and Dre gave him credibility no New York rapper had achieved in years. But behind the studio glass, 50 still operated with street instincts. He knew who owed favors, who owed respect, who needed to be reminded why he was feared. Even label execs admitted, "You don't negotiate hard with someone who's been shot 9 times." And it wasn't just myth. The people who knew his past, his contacts from Queens, were still out there. The same world that tried to kill him was now his calling card. In an era obsessed with authenticity, 50 Cent had something no one else could fake: survival. He'd turned trauma into marketing, pain into strategy, fear into leverage. By the time Get Rich or Die Tryin hit 10 million copies, one thing was clear. He wasn't just rich, he was untouchable. 50 Cent didn't just enter the rap game, he took it hostage. Within a year, he launched his own label, G-Unit Records, and introduced Lloyd Banks, Tony Yayo, and Young Buck, a crew that mirrored his street empire. Every member had the same swagger, the same loyalty. Together, they made domination look organized. Rappers beefed for fame. 50 beefed for business. His feud with Ja Rule and Murder Inc. Records became the most notorious in rap history. It wasn't just music, it was psychological warfare. Diss tracks turned into street rumors into fear. 50 exposed Ja Rule's soft image, mocked his melodies, and dismantled his credibility. The result? Murder Inc. collapsed, and 50's legend grew. But behind the lyrics was strategy. He studied Sun Tzu's Art of War, read business manuals, and applied those lessons to the industry. "Every beef is marketing," he once said. "It's just about who survives it," and he always did. Even rivals admitted they feared crossing him. 50 had an unmatched information network, people on the ground in New York, LA, Miami, feeding him stories, rumors, leverage. Some called it paranoia, others called it genius. To 50, it was business insurance. While most rappers spent their money on cars, he invested in clothing lines, film studios, and Vitaminwater. When Coca-Cola bought the brand in 2007, his reported profit hit over $100 million. The same man who once sold drugs on street corners now out-negotiated Fortune 500 companies. But even at the top, he never lost the chip on his shoulder. "Fear is respect," he told an interviewer. "If they ain't afraid to lose against you, you already lost." He didn't rap those words, he lived them. By the mid-2000s, 50 Cent was more than a rapper. He was a machine. Music, film, fashion, and power consolidated under one brand: survival. His second album, The Massacre, sold 1.1 million copies in 4 days. Tracks like Piggy Bank and Candy Shop showed his duality, part war anthem, part pop genius. He was conquering both radio and the streets, something even legends before him hadn't mastered. But beneath the diamond chains and business suits was the same cold discipline that had kept him alive. The fear that surrounded him wasn't just because of what he'd done, it was what people believed he could still do. Industry insiders whispered about his unpredictability, his refusal to forget insults, the quiet intensity that made even executives tread lightly. 50 Cent didn't threaten people, he just reminded them that he'd already survived the worst. At home, he built literal fortresses, bulletproof cars, armed security, cameras everywhere. The trauma of 2000 never left him. In his mansion outside Connecticut, he kept a framed copy of the police report from his shooting. It wasn't decoration, it was motivation. When he rapped about pain, it wasn't metaphor, it was memory. Many men wish death wasn't just a song. song, it was his biography in 3 verses. He turned that fear into fuel, and that fuel into empire. Every business deal, every lyric, every move was made with the precision of someone who had already died once and refused to do it again. By the end of the decade, 50 Cent wasn't just feared, he was respected. The rapper who couldn't get radio play after being shot now had movies, TV shows, platinum albums, and millions in the bank. But under all that success, one thing never changed. Curtis Jackson still saw the world like South Jamaica, a place where power is survival, and survival is everything. By the late 2000s, 50 Cent had conquered rap, but success didn't erase the paranoia. The 9 bullets that tore through him years earlier had healed on the outside, but inside, they still dictated his every move. He slept light, trusted few, and treated business like war. Even his friends described him as always watching. He wasn't wrong to be cautious. Fame doesn't erase enemies, it multiplies them. As his fortune grew, so did the list of people who wanted to test him. Whether it was lawsuits, rivals, or old associates from Queens, 50 faced them all the same way, with aggression and calculation. To him, fear wasn't a weakness, it was protection. On stage, he played the fearless king. Off stage, he studied like a general. He dissected market trends, learned production, and built his own ecosystem. In 2005, he produced and starred in Get Rich or Die Tryin, a semi-autobiographical film that blurred fact and fiction. Audiences saw what they already suspected. 50 Cent wasn't acting, he was reliving. But behind the empire, his trauma simmered. He'd lost his mother young, been shot, betrayed, and blacklisted. "I stopped expecting love," he once said. "I expect loyalty." That line explained everything about him. His coldness, his obsession with control, his iron grip on G-Unit. Even when G-Unit began fracturing with public fallouts between members, 50 kept his image intact. He had already realized something powerful. People feared the myth more than the man, and so he protected the myth at all costs. His old enemies were mostly gone. Some retired, some dead, some irrelevant. But 50 didn't relax. He was already planning his next war. Not in the streets, but in the boardroom. When most rappers fade after their prime, 50 Cent got sharper. His next arena wasn't music, it was empire building. He transformed the same street mentality that kept him alive into business strategy that made him unstoppable. He invested in Vitaminwater early, earning an estimated $100 million when Coca-Cola bought the brand in 2007. He launched film companies, gaming ventures, and TV projects. But the real turning point came in 2014, when Power premiered on Stars. It wasn't just a hit series, it was a reflection of his psyche. A story about loyalty, greed, and ambition. Power mirrored his own code. Survive by any means. 50 didn't just produce it, he controlled it. The same focus that made him a threat in rap made him an architect in television. He built an empire of shows, BMF, Power Book 2, Force, Raising Kanan, each filled with betrayal, danger, and strategy. Behind the camera, he became just as feared. Actors and executives described him as relentless, calculating, and blunt. He didn't care about comfort, he cared about results. "You can't scare me," he'd tell interviewers. "I've already been through worse." But even while playing the mogul, 50 never stopped being 50. His social media became a battlefield. Feuds with stars, insults to rivals, lawsuits turned into memes. Some called it petty, others saw it as genius. Free publicity wrapped in entertainment. He didn't want to be loved, he wanted to be unavoidable. That's why, even in his 50s, he's still relevant, because fear isn't his brand, it's his language. And whether it's rap beefs or billion-dollar deals, 50 Cent still speaks it fluently. Today, Curtis Jackson stands as one of hip-hop's rare survivors, not just of violence, but of time. 2 decades after Get Rich or Die Tryin, he remains a global name, a business force, and a symbol of resilience. He's not the young hustler from Queens anymore, but he's still the same strategist who learned that power isn't given, it's taken. His legacy stretches far beyond music. He's credited with shaping a generation of rapper entrepreneurs, artists who learned that money and control are louder than awards. In a genre built on image, 50 proved that authenticity is the most terrifying thing of all. Because his story wasn't marketing, it was survival on record. He once said, "People don't fear death. They fear not mattering. That's why every move he's made, every album, every show, every deal is built to outlive him. The same fear that haunted him as a child in South Jamaica now fuels him as an empire builder. He never outran his past. He repurposed it. The trauma became blueprint, the bullets became metaphor, and the pain became profit. And that's what separates 50 Cent from everyone else. Most rappers chase fame. He turned it into a fortress. Most survive for success. He survived for dominance. From street corners to skyscrapers, Curtis 50 Cent Jackson proved that power doesn't come from who you know, it comes from what you've endured. And the world will always remember him for one thing. He didn't just survive 9 bullets, he turned every single one into an empire. Every empire has a story. 50 Cent began on a cracked sidewalk in Queens, with a motherless boy who learned to count money before he could count years. It continued through gunfire, betrayal, and the kind of pain that buries most men. But Curtis Jackson refused to die. Not on the street, not in the industry, not in history. He took 9 bullets, lost his record deal, was blacklisted, and still built one of the most profitable careers in rap. He turned trauma into momentum, danger into discipline, and fear into fame. Even now, he carries that same survivor's stare, the look of a man who knows that every victory has a cost and every scar has a purpose. Because 50 Cent didn't just survive the game, he rewrote it. He made fear fashionable, he made pain profitable, and he made the entire world listen. From South Jamaica to sold-out arenas, from mixtapes to movie screens, he built an empire from ashes and proved that sometimes the most dangerous weapon in the world isn't a gun. It's the man who can't be killed.